most important mind shifts as a parent that I learned is that all behaviors mean something. And I am sure you've had this experience where your child is melting down and you feel so helpless because you have absolutely no idea why, and they can't tell you why. And so learning what causes that meltdown and looking at the behavior and what they're trying to communicate through the behavior is just life changing. I'm going to let Regina Crone take it from here.
Okay, so diving into behavior and that all behavior has meaning, right? That's kind of like changing that mindset and not feeling helpless. I think one of the best things to start to recognize is that when we understand behavior, we can start to put things in place to help change that behavior. And why we can do that is because behavior is communication. What is it communicating, right? And it's not always communicating what's obvious. If it was obvious, then that would be super easy and you would just change it, right? So instead, we're having to do a little bit of investigation, especially when it's not obvious and you're not easily able to change that behavior. So I want to give you some tools for doing that. And I'm going to give it to you in two ways. One is we're going to look for patterns. So when you're first investigating, what is going on with this behavior? Why is it occurring? What is it communicating? I don't understand. Then we can start to record it in a way that we can find patterns. And the first way you can do this is it's called an ABC data sheet. Okay, this might be familiar to some of you, but for those of you who it's not, A stands for antecedent, behavior, and then that C is the consequence. And so if you start to see behavior in those three components, then you're going to start to be able to investigate it and understand why it's occurring. All right, so when you're looking at this data sheet, you're going to put the date, the time. That becomes important because sometimes behaviors are happening in the morning for a different reason than they're happening in the evening. So it becomes really important to even differentiate those things. And then antecedent, it's going to say before. So write what happened right before the behavior occurred, right? Maybe you said no in your sentence when you were saying you can't watch TV, right? That'd be, then the behavior occurs. Well, then that starts to help you identify, maybe it's not every time the TV goes off, maybe it's every time they hear the word no. I actually had a kiddo that if you just said, no, I don't want that one, they would have a behavior because their history was the word no was actually the precursor to those behaviors, right? And so understanding it and what the patterns are can just tell you more and more about it. And then of course you can track the behavior here, then the consequence, what happened right afterwards. If they had that tantrum because you said no to the TV, but then you said, oh, okay, you can watch the TV and you turned it on and the behavior went away, right? Then we start to track that as well. And then you can start to list over here a possible function. We're not going to dive into what the functions of behavior are here, but what I can tell you is there's 4 different functions that are possible for any way a behavior looks. So one behavior can be used in several different ways. To check that out, go to our video on understanding behavior. We have a whole video about diving into that and more takeaways so you can actually walk through what that looks like. Okay, there's little directions on one side, but it's going to walk you through what those are and just start logging and tracking. And here's the thing, if you have a hard time even looking at this and saying, okay, I need to help find the pattern, go to the professionals, right? Go to your teachers, go to the therapist that you're working with and let them look at that pattern and help you identify that. Here's another thing. Our kids are in different environments, right? They're at home, they're at school, they're at therapy centers, wherever they might be. Here's another little ABC checklist. You do not have to train everybody on how to analyze, but what you can do is giving them the tools to track, even a babysitter. You can give them these little cards that are these ABC checklists. So they're a little bit more generic based on what you know about your child. And you're going to just ask them to check the things that apply. And that gives you more data to start looking and investigating the patterns over environments and over people. And so there's just so much power in knowing that there's hope in changing behavior once we start to understand it. So that's what we want to talk about.
That mind shift of that they are communicating something. So let's not be frustrated. Let's try and do a little investigative work and figure out why. And I can tell you that this is the exact way I figured out with my daughter that anytime she is hungry, she melts down. And so we were able to bring snacks. And before it was a time she might get hungry, we would eat snacks so that we never got to that blood sugar level, which is something we figured out through charting it like this. So I know it's going to help so many parents to be able to see, okay, this is why your child is doing that. So make sure to print everything out and have a sunny day.
Bye.